everyone else, and we recognise that mobility devices are vital for many. That's why we're reviewing the legal framework surrounding mobility devices, including this outdated terminology, and we'll be consulting on this in due course.
Richard Ford.
17, please, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, good rail infrastructure supports reliable services and economic growth and is a central part of this government's growth mission. In July, I set out my priority for improvements to the rail network as part of giving the green light for over 50 road and rail upgrades, supporting over 39,000 new homes and 42,000 jobs. This included plans for stations at Columpton and Wellington in the honourable member's constituency.
Yeah. Richard Ford.
Rail travellers are used to the excuse of leaves on the line, but travellers on the railway between Exeter and London Waterloo recently have encountered a new one: soil moisture deficit. Duelling the line on a 3-mile section of the track near Wimpole could give passengers travelling on the West of England line 2 trains per hour. Would the Minister please look favourably at this modest investment, which would improve frequency, reliability and resilience for one of the 2 main rail routes into the southwest?
Secretary of State.
I do understand the frustration of the travelling public, and we did experience a particularly dry summer this year, and Network Rail had taken preparations in order to deal with that, but I recognise that dry soil is as frustrating as leaves on the line. I will certainly look into the specific scheme that he suggests, and I would be happy to write to him with more information on that.
Lord Mayor.
Speaker, on the 28th of this month, the historic Bolby line in my constituency will be reopened for passengers to celebrate 200 years of passenger rail. But I believe this line ought to be open permanently so people can access jobs and opportunities. So will the Secretary of State meet with me to talk about this prospect and other transport proposals that I've got for East Cleveland?
Secretary of State.
I'd be very happy to meet with my honourable friend, and he is right that in some instances reopening branch lines on the rail network can be transformative for areas. I visited the opening of the Northumberland line recently in the first week, well actually it was the first week I was in the job, and passenger numbers on that stretch of line have exceeded expectations and are unlocking opportunities for a whole range of communities in the North East. Of course we want to replicate that across the country. That's why we have announced additional investment in the Metro West schemes down in the area surrounding Bristol, and I'd be very happy to talk to him about the situation in his constituency in Cleveland.
Sir David Davis.
19, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Government is supporting the UK sustainable aviation fuel industry through the SAF mandate, the Advanced Fuels Fund and new legislation introducing a revenue certainty mechanism. We are working with industry to cut emissions, boost UK production, create high-quality green jobs and attract investment whilst ensuring value for money. Sir David.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I can start by congratulating my parliamentary neighbour on his accession. It's good to see his talents recognised. Much of the technology currently used in sustainable aviation fuel is of foreign origin. And part of the reason for this is that no government bodies directly support the development of core technologies used for that, only the development of production facilities. The Aerospace Technology Institute, for example, should be able to invest in R&D programs to develop sustainable fuel, but they're currently not permitted to do so. So will he look at allowing them to do that so we can accelerate the development of our own technology in this area?
Minister.
I thank the right honourable gentleman for his question. He will know that through the ATI programme, the Department for Business and Trade co-invests with industry in research and technology development in the UK to maintain and grow the UK's competitive position in civil aerospace. In addition, on SAF, we fund the UK SAF Clearinghouse to help fuel producers navigate the testing and approval requirements for non-fossil fuel-based jet fuel. It coordinates testing and qualifications of SAF, helping to remove barriers to new fuels coming to market. Plus, the Advanced Fuels Fund has allocated £198 million with a core aim of overcoming technological risk for early-stage projects to support UK SAF production. But if the right honourable member wishes to discuss any other aspects of this policy, I'd be very glad to do so.
Total.
Mr. Speaker, on the subject of aviation, the beautiful Isle of Barra Airport in my constituency has had to cancel 14% of its flights in the last year on the beautiful beach runway. This is not on the whole due to bad weather or tides, but because the Brexiteering Tories withdrew us from the European satellite navigation system, which allows flights to land in low visibility and bad weather. Will the new Minister celebrate his role by meeting me on the beach to discuss rejoining, perhaps not the European Union, but at least the European geostationary navigation overlay system, EGNOS?
Minister.
What an attractive proposition for my honourable friend, and so early in my tenure in this position. He raises an incredibly important matter, and it would be remiss of me not to give it the full attention it deserves, and therefore I will respond to him further on the specific questions he raises in writing.
We're now going to go over to topicals, and we will start with Andrew Snowden.
Topical number 1, please, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, can I start by welcoming my honourable friend, the member for Selby, to my ministerial team? I'm really pleased to have him on board, and I'm sure he's equally as pleased to be facing oral questions on day 4. He's joining a great team that's achieved a lot over the summer as part of this government's plan for change. The new electric car grant is putting money back in the pockets of drivers. 35 EV models, including from Ford, Nissan and Vauxhall, will see their prices slashed thanks to £650 million of government investment. And since launch, the grant has already helped over 7,000 drivers to choose an EV. We've announced a further £100 million in transport funding for local transport outside major cities in England, with uplifts for the North West, Yorkshire and Humber and the Midlands. Public ownership is already improving our railways, with South Western more than doubling the number of new trains in service, and there's much more to come in the next few months. We'll publish the first road safety strategy in over a decade, as well as an integrated transport strategy for England, delivering better journeys that put people first, grow our economy and improve our day-to-day lives.
Andrew Snow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If my constituents were paying £2 for a bus ticket one day, then £3 for a bus ticket the next day, their fare has increased by 50%, not gone down, has it not?
So State.
The honourable gentleman seems to be suffering a case of amnesia, because his party allocated absolutely zero money to fund the bus fare beyond December of last year. So I know how important affordable bus travel is to the British people, and this government is determined to deliver it.
Helena Dollymore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Queensway Gateway roadworks have unleashed chaos on my constituents in Hastings and the surrounding area. Originally planned to last 1 month, the project has dragged on for more than a year because of the failure of East Sussex County Council to plan for the relocation of a major water main. Does the Minister share my concerns about the mismanagement of this taxpayer-funded project and agree that serious questions must now be answered by the Conservative Council?
Thank my honourable friend. I know my honourable friend has raised this issue time and time again with East Sussex County Council. The delay to Queensbury Gateway project has wreaked havoc for her constituents. Given the project was funded with government money, serious questions must now be asked of East Sussex County Council about these issues and the delays that have come about.
So Secretary of State Richard Oldham.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Speaker. When we're next here, the budget will just be days away. So can the Transport Secretary rule out any of the following? Increased duty on fuel or flights, VAT on private hire, increase the insurance premium tax, or raising rail fares above inflation? And if she won't, has she at least spoken against any of these measures in Cabinet or to the Chancellor since she took up her role?
I know how important affordable public transport to people is to people in Britain. I know the importance of the fuel duty freeze that we brought in last year. I can assure the honourable gentleman that I will have conversations across government to protect businesses and protect the travelling public.
Thank you, Shane.
In recent years, the cost of car insurance has gone through the roof, with quoted prices rising an average 80 since 2021. Car insurance is an essential, not a luxury, and I welcome the Government's commitments to tackle these spiralling costs for drivers in Derby and across the UK. Can the Secretary of State provide an update on what progress her task force is making in getting a fair deal for drivers when it comes to car insurance?
Minister.
So this government is committed in our manifesto to tackle the high cost of motor insurance, and I'm pleased to see recent data suggesting that average premiums are falling. The government's task force, chaired by the Department of Transport and HM Treasury, is continuing to work to identify short and long-term policy actions which may contribute to stabilising or reducing premiums.
Ian Solomon.
Mr Speaker, under current government policy, rail commuters in St Neots face a rise of nearly £400 for annual season tickets to London next year, for the first time paying over £7,000 for services plagued by delays and cancellations. So how does the Secretary of State justify this policy to my constituents?
Secretary of State.
I do know that affordability is a top concern for people when it comes to rail. No decisions have been made on next year's rail fares, but our aim is that prices balance affordability for travellers with what is fair for taxpayers.
Marcus Campbell-Sams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Penrith and the surrounding villages have endured a summer of gridlock, with junction 40 on the M6 repeatedly grinding to a halt, particularly when peak holiday traffic is heading to Cumbria and the Lakes. While we await the vital A66 Transpennine upgrade, for which we're all very grateful, will the Minister agree to meet with me to discuss urgent, short-term interventions that Highways England can implement to ease the pressure for my constituents?
I sympathise with those suffering in congestion at junction 40 of the M6, which I'm told is due to various issues. And my friend, along with the Honourable Member for Carlisle, have been working hard to resolve these issues for the constituents. I'm very happy, of course, to arrange a meeting to discuss any future short-term interventions that could ease congestion with either me or with my team or National Highways.
Thomas.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As we see increasing use of e-scooters, increasingly there are small numbers of people who are conducting antisocial behaviour whilst riding around on these micro-mobility vehicles. This is of great concern to my constituents, and I'm particularly concerned that there is no minimum age requirement for the purchase of an e-scooter, and that there is no national registration scheme that could help track those who are using these for nefarious activities. Has the government got any plans to introduce a national registration scheme for e-scooters?
Minister.
As I mentioned a little bit earlier, the government is determined to and has every intention of bringing about legislation on e-scooters. All this will be taken as part of that development of the policy.
Matt Rodder.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, the £1 billion regeneration scheme at Station Hill in Reading is bringing large numbers of jobs and new housing to Reading Town Centre, and this is due to the Elizabeth line. Can the Minister update the House on the benefits of this wonderful railway line, both to Berkshire and across the country?
Secretary of State.
Like my honourable friend, I'm a big fan of the Elizabeth line, and I commend him for his dogged support of the scheme on behalf of his constituents. It is a significant addition to the transport network in London and the South East, and has had tangible, positive impacts on the supply chain around the country, as well as providing faster journeys into and across London from Reading. I was proud to have personally helped to deliver this new railway in my previous role in London, and to see that it has now supported around 55,000 full-time jobs, as well as creating over 1,000 apprenticeship opportunities.
Christine Jardine.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Further to the comments earlier about driving test centres, it's a very serious problem in my constituency of Edinburgh West. All 5 of the centres closest to us have waiting times of 24 weeks. That's 6 months. People are now looking to other parts of Scotland for tests. Now, I appreciate what the Minister said about employing extra people, but can I ask that specific interest and special attention is given in this circumstance to Scotland, where in rural areas particularly it's a problem?
Minister.
I will meet with the member.
Alex Mack.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does the Minister agree that extending the Dunstable-Luton busway onto Leighton Buzzard and then Bletchley would be a real boon to more fully link the area into the Oxford-Cambridge growth area?
Responsibility for local transport is devolved to local authorities who are responsible for the operation of the networks. including extensions of busways. The government is committed to the Oxcam growth corridor, and Lord Valence has been tasked with exploring options and how best to deliver economic growth in this area.
Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a workshop taking place this morning in Bath, bringing together key stakeholders from the rail industry and local authorities. It focuses on the development of rail services in Wiltshire and will include the case for building a Devizes Gateway station and increasing services in Melksham. The recommendations of Network Rail's Wiltshire Rail Strategic Study, would the Secretary of State or Rail Minister meet with me and key stakeholders to discuss taking forward these key projects in Wiltshire? Thank you.
I can assure the honourable gentleman that I'm aware of both the Bath and Wiltshire Metro scheme and the Devizes Gateway project. Whilst we don't have any plans currently to take forward those schemes, I would encourage local authorities, Great Western Rail and Network Rail to continue to work together in developing these plans and in exploring funding opportunities.
Rutland.
Who use the A259 Coast Road are being deprived of the choice of safe and sustainable travel to Brighton, as Conservative-run West Sussex County Council has dragged its feet for more than 3 decades on delivering a cycle path. What can the government do to help me and Shoreham by Cycle push for this much-needed infrastructure that West Sussex County Council has long promised but failed to deliver?
Minister.
I'll be happy to meet with the honourable gentleman.
Right. Andrew Rossendale.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the Secretary of State for Transport would have a word with her friend, the Mayor of London, about the appalling mismanagement of the Gallows Corner junction where a new flyover is being constructed. The gridlock and the chaos and the delays are affecting the whole of the Romford side of Essex and the whole of East London. It really is chaos. Yeah. Will she please get it sorted out?
Sorry.
I'm sure the Mayor of London and Transport for London will want to do all that it can to minimise disruption during any construction of the sort that he describes. If he wishes to write to me with more of the details, I'm really sorry I didn't hear the question in full when he was giving it. Was it Gallows Corner? If he wishes to write to me with the specific details of the local issues, I will come back to him.
Mary Kelly-Foy.
Mr. Speaker, my constituents have been very vocal about their opposition to the LNER timetable changes starting in December this year, including the removal of the 8:22 a.m. commuter service from Durham to Newcastle on a weekday. LNER assured me they were replacing it with an equivalent service, but from reports this week, the service will now take an extra 10 minutes from Durham to Newcastle, arriving at 8:44. This is not an equivalent service. So will the Minister meet with me and LNER to ensure that commuters leaving Durham are provided with an equivalent service?
Secretary of State.
I know she is a great champion for her constituents, and I did review the correspondence she had with the Rail Minister over the summer and was aware that the 8:22 service had been reinstated. I wasn't aware of the longer journey time, so I would be happy to meet with her to discuss that further.
Tom Gordon.
In response to a recent written parliamentary question, the department confirmed they're shelving improvements to Skelton Junction outside York. This will impact on the proposed improvements to rail services for commuters in Harrogate and Knaresborough. How does this align with the government's vision for growth?
We are committed to improving rail connectivity and capacity in the north of England. I would be happy to have a further conversation with the honourable gentleman about the particular scheme that he mentions today.
Chair of the Select Committee, Ruth Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also look forward to working with the new Minister, the member for Selby. Mr. Speaker, at last week's Transport Committee, we heard that car clubs, peer-to-peer ride-sharing and car-sharing schemes align with government objectives around transport integration, reducing congestion, increasing EV use and supporting rural residents where public transport's poor. And unlike other countries like France, the sector in the UK is operating in a policy vacuum, particularly since the government withdrew the car club's toolkit guidance in May this year. Is the Minister planning to address this policy vacuum?
Minister.
I thank my little friend completely. I think you're completely right, and I thank the Transport Select Committee for raising this important point. I've commissioned officials to consider how we can support and promote the use of car club and car share schemes, starting with a round table with industry stakeholders, which I'd be delighted if she could attend, and I'll make sure that guidance is reinstated.
Fleur Anderson.
The Hammersmith Bridge closed 6 years, 4 months and 22 days ago, cutting off the bus routes and causing congestion in Putney. I welcome that the Minister held the first Hammersmith Bridge Task Force meeting. When will the next one be held?
Secretary of State.
My honourable friend will know that I am very aware of the problems related to Hammersmith Bridge, and I know that my honourable friend, the Minister, did host that first meeting, the resurrected Hammersmith Bridge Task Force. I do have some good news for her in that we announced in the spending review a structures fund to assist local authorities with repair to bridges, tunnels, which are beyond the financial capacity of the local authority themselves to fund. We will be setting out the criteria for access to that fund in due course.
Lawrence Turner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Half the bus sector's funding now comes from public sources, but during the summer, National Express announced changes to bus services in my constituency with just 2 weeks public notice, which will have a really negative effect for residents in New Franklin, Allens Cross and Bourneville Gardens Village Retirement Home. Does the Minister agree that when regulation is brought in, which is welcome, that consultation must be included?
Minister.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's really important that when designing a network and changes to the network, that local people are engaged.
Yes. Kim Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Liverpool City Region Mayor Steve Rotherham has submitted a new town bid with Liverpool and Sefton councils regenerating the most deprived areas of the country. Does the Minister agree with me that for new towns to succeed there needs to be proper funding for integrated transport? And will you commit to working and meeting with the Mayor and the politicians to make this happen?
No state.
I can assure my honourable friend that I have very regular meetings with the Mayor of Liverpool City Region. I am completely cognizant of the fact that for new towns to be successful, thriving communities, they need public transport built in from the start. And indeed, I think there's capacity to create almost new towns in existing towns where public transport is already available. And those are the sorts of conversations I'm having with our regional mayors.
Pam Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The A12 is a major transport route into Colchester and a vital part of economic growth in the region. Would the Minister agree to meet with me to discuss the urgent need for upgrades to its western end?
Rachel Hopkins. Sorry, Minister.
I'd be delighted to.
Rachel Hopkins.
Thank you. Luton Station is the gateway to Luton Town Centre, and thanks to this Labour government will soon be getting lifts to all its platforms. However, the roof still leaks. Would the Minister meet with me and representatives of Luton Council to see what can be done with regards to the state of the station?
I would certainly talk to the Rail Minister and ask him to meet with the Honourable Lady. We can't have a leaking roof in Luton Station.
Oliver Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Padiham Greenway Bridge has been closed since 2021, and in December of last year, this government gave £280,000 to Susterns to help get the work finished, but there is a shortfall. This government has given £19 million to Lancashire County Council through active travel and the capacity fund to get this project online. Does he agree with me that Lancashire County Council should prioritise this to get it done? Can I thank him for his extensive correspondence with me on this topic?
I know my humble friend is a very active campaigner in this area. We're delighted to meet with him to discuss what further pressure we can do to make sure this is delivered.
Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, you will be aware of the mistakes made during the counting of votes yesterday.
Shocking.
Are you able to give some guidance to the Treasury front bench on the importance of the work of the whips?
Let me just say divisions are a core part of our business here in the Chamber, and accurate recording of votes is integral to the parliamentary decision-making. I appreciate there's been major changes within the Whip's office, and what I can say is it is about the new role that has got to be delivered. I know the House team will work with the Whips to make sure that we get accurate recordings. What I would say is I've met with the Chief Whip this morning. I've explained the concerns that have been raised with me following last night through the Deputy Speakers. We do take it seriously. My door remains open for the Chief Whip. I hope he's going to use that avenue as a way that we can work together. It's been unfortunate that I've not had that conversation till this morning. I am now going to leave it at that. I'll let the front benches change over. Right, we now come to the urgent question. Neil O'Brien.
Mr. Speaker, to ask the Foreign Secretary if she will make a statement on the process for the appointment of the United Kingdom's ambassador to the United States.
Minister Doherty.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. Before I respond to it, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important that we all recognise today as the House that it is, of course, the anniversary of the September the 11th attacks. Many of us will be attending commemorations later on today, and our thoughts are, of course, with all the thousands of people who lost their lives in that despicable terrorist attack, including many British, many American citizens and many other countries. And, Mr. Speaker, I think the whole House's condolences and thoughts will be with the family and friends of Charlie Kirk. Absolutely appalling attack and murder yesterday, Mr. Speaker. We know too well in this House, sitting underneath the two shields of our dear colleagues from across the political spectrum, the terrible consequences of political violence. And I know that the whole House will be thinking of Charlie's family, friends and others, and urging an end to this sort of political violence. It's absolutely appalling. Mr. Speaker, in light of additional information in emails written by Peter Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador to the United States. The emails show, Mr. Speaker, that the depth and extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment. In particular, Mr. Speaker, Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. And in light of that, Mr. Speaker, and mindful, as we all are, of the victims of Epstein's appalling crimes, he has been withdrawn as ambassador with immediate effect.
Neil O'Brien.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for granting this statement, and I agree with the words of the Minister about September 11th and Charlie Kirk. But, Mr. Speaker, this is yet another extraordinary error of judgment by this weak Prime Minister. And I pay tribute to the Leader of the Opposition for yesterday securing justice for the victims of Epstein. This raises massive questions. It is not just that Peter Mandelson said that Epstein was his best pal and that he loved him. It wasn't just that he brokered a deal for him while he was business secretary. We now, of course, know that he was working for Epstein's early release after he was convicted. And the simple question is this. Is the Minister now saying that the Prime Minister did not know about any of this at the point where he was appointed? Don't say the boxes were ticked and the process was followed. What did the Prime Minister know at the point of his appointment? Our Minister this morning said, my understanding was that all of the information was present. Is that correct? Did the Prime Minister know, and will the government now publish all the documents relating to Peter Mandelson's vetting? And if the Minister says he doesn't know at the time, when did the Prime Minister become aware of these revelations? Now, Peter Mandelson quietly stayed at Epstein's house while he was in prison. Mandelson now says that he was wrong to think he was innocent. That's his defence. He had pleaded guilty. So there are huge questions here, Mr. Speaker. Did the State Department, the US State Department, give any warning to our government ahead of this appointment? Did the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, give any warning? Have any employees of Global Counsel visited our Washington embassy since his appointment? Next week is going to be the state visit. This is a huge turmoil ahead of it, and I cannot believe that the government have put our monarch in this terrible position. I am glad that Peter Mandelson has now gone. The Foreign Secretary had said that protecting women, girls and victims was her priority. How on earth did that square with the behaviour of the government over recent days, squirming and twisting to try and protect Peter Mandelson rather than the victims? Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. This is a government where you had a corruption minister having to resign over the links to corruption. You had a former police officer having to resign over having not been clear with the police. You've had a housing minister having to resign over not paying tax on a house, and now you put our ambassador to Washington in the middle of the biggest scandal in Washington. This is a weak Prime Minister with error after error of judgment.
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the first thing that we all need to be clear across this House, and I'm sure the honourable gentleman wouldn't disagree with this, is that the victims of Epstein are at the forefront of all of our minds. He was a despicable criminal who committed the most heinous crimes and destroyed the lives of so many women and girls. Clearly, obviously, events in the last few hours, he wrote his remarks before that, but I want to reiterate what I said to him, which is that the emails show that the depth and the extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment. And in particular, Mr. Speaker, the suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. Lord Mandelson has resigned. That decision has been taken, and that is a very, very clear answer to his questions.
Andy MacDonald.
I'm sure I speak for the whole House in sending our best wishes to our colleague in Washington and Gateshead South for the appalling fire at her office overnight. And we send our very best wishes to her and her staff. May I thank the Minister for his statement. The Prime Minister has made exactly the right decision, and I think that has to be acknowledged. He's moved at pace to put that right. Don't be ridiculous. Treat it seriously.
Please. It's very important. There will be a lot of people listening to what's going on in this chamber. So please, let's put some courtesies to each other.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could I ask the Minister? Clearly, the appointment process didn't pick up these issues. That's self-evident. So, can we have an assurance that there will be an inquiry as to why that was not the case, and that this House will be kept informed? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I first, I wasn't aware of the terrible incidents that he referred to this morning. I've just been informed, and I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House will be with our colleague from Washington and Gateshead. And Mr. Speaker, I know how seriously you take the safety and security of members of this House, and I think particularly in light of international events and the tragic loss of colleagues, this all the more underlines why we must have security and safety to go about democratic debate in this country, whatever our views, in a safe and secure way. Mr. Speaker, I thank him for his comments on the decision. As I said, this is a decision that has been taken by the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary, and Lord Mandelson has resigned. He asks about the processes. Of course, any candidates for ambassador positions are subject to routine extensive vetting and background checks as a matter of course, and I would point him to the formal processes outlined in the Diplomatic Service Code, which highlights the robust security clearance and vetting process that all members of the diplomatic service undergo.
Helen Maguire, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, our thoughts are also with the friends and families of the victims of 9/11, and I'd also firstly like to express my regret and sadness of the murder of Charlie Kirk. And I also hope that the staff and MP for Gateshead South are all okay following the incident at her office, because police violence should have absolutely no place in society. Tasked with overseeing the UK's relationship with Trump, the accusations surround Lord Mandelson cast a damning shadow. So it's right the Prime Minister has withdrawn his support for Lord Mandelson. Yesterday, the Prime Minister stood by Lord Mandelson's appointment to confirm that rigorous background checks had taken place. So what has changed since then? There remain questions over what the government knew and when about Lord Mandelson's relationship with the sex offender, whom he previously described as his best pal. Did he resign or was he sacked? It's vital that the Civil Service Commission now investigates whether the ambassador broke the Diplomatic Service Code by failing to come clean over these revelations sooner. Was the vetting process pushed through too fast? So will the Minister today confirm that an investigation will take place so that no such incidents can happen again? Reports have also surfaced that the Cabinet Office suppressed the relationship of a memo about Mandelson's relationship because it could compromise relations with the US. Will the Minister confirm if this was the case?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank her for her remarks regarding our honourable friend. And again, I would just underline the importance of us all being able to go about our roles in a safe and secure way, whatever our political views and our beliefs. And I think in light of international events, particularly in the United States, that should be all at the forefront of our minds today. I've been very clear, Mr. Speaker, in light of the additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson, the Prime Minister asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador. That is very clear. The decision was taken by the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary, and those emails show that the depth and the extent of the relationship is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the comments about our condolences and concerns for our member for Washington and Gateshead? Can I also thank the Minister for his statement and confirm that I too am disgusted and appalled by the actions of Epstein, and my thoughts are with the victims of his crimes. Can the Minister confirm that we have an excellent Deputy Ambassador in Washington who will ensure that our mission continues and next week's visit will go ahead?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we have an excellent team overall in British Embassy I indeed I pay tribute to the work of all of our diplomatic service colleagues across the world, and they do an excellent job representing this country, ensuring that our security and prosperity is at the forefront of their work, and of course in our relationship with the United States in particular, that is crucially important. Our special relationship, our unique security partnership. I'll be at the United States Embassy later on today, and it's our closest and most important relationship. So I agree with him that there is a very excellent team in British Embassy Washington.
For the House, Edward Lee.
Obviously, this is a very sad day for the United States with 9/11 and the assassination last night. Now, this is such a crucial relationship with us with the upcoming state visit, and this is a dark cloud over this. So, will he forgive me, the Minister? I just give him some gentle advice. In my experience of these scandals, the cover-up and the lack of due process and the allegations of cronyism are much more serious than any original offence or alleged offence. So will the Minister ensure that every single document is released post-haste about the process, including this issue about the meeting that Mandelson requested with Prime Minister Blair over Epstein? So we need everything released straight away, move on and get a new ambassador.
Well, Mr. Speaker, he is absolutely right about the importance of our relationship with the United States and the upcoming state visit. Very important. We've got an extensive team working on that, and His Majesty the King is obviously very much looking forward to welcoming President Trump, and of course many officials working diligently day and night to ensure that visit is a success. I'm not going to get into the individual issues and claims that he makes, but what I will say is that this is a decisive decision, and in light of the additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador.
Kim Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would also like to offer my support to my honourable friend, the member for Washington and Gateshead. This incident follows a number of incidents that she's experienced this week, and it's out of order. I'd like to thank the Minister for his statement, and I'm really pleased that he has been sacked. But I'd like to know what due diligence was undertaken prior to his appointment, when everybody knew about his relationship with Epstein before his appointment.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I've made very clear, it was in light of additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson that the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador, and in particular Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. And again, I know my honourable friend well. I know that her thoughts and the thoughts of all of us will be with Epstein's victims and the appalling crimes that he committed.
Sir David Davis.
I think the House needs to understand the sheer size of the failure of the vetting process here. In the public domain, Lord Mandelson had to resign for not telling the truth about an interest-free loan. He had to resign because he had, on a second occasion, because he had helped out a business friend to get a passport. Beyond that, there are still unresolved doubts about his behaviour as the European Trade Commissioner, when he gave concessions to the Russians, which helped his other dubious close friend, Mr. Deripaska. But on the positive vetting process, when he came to be a perceived to arise between their public duties and their private interests, financial or otherwise. Secretaries of State don't have private diaries. He spent time with or in Mr. Epstein's flat, it seems quietly meeting other members of the people involved in the Sempra deal, which cannot have been, cannot be seen to have been following his proper duties as Secretary of State. Was this investigated? Because it was in the government documents. It doesn't have to be a private email he sees. Was this investigated, and was it made a judgment on?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I've said, and he asks specifically about vetting, all candidates for ambassador positions are subject to routine extensive vetting and background checks as a matter of course, and I would point him to the formal process outlined in the Diplomatic Service Code, which highlights the robust security clearance and vetting process which all members of the diplomatic service undergo. But again, I would point out that in light of additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw Lord Mandelson as Ambassador to the United States.
Sarah Coombs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I agree with the Minister's utter condemnation of all the horrendous crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. Does he agree that the government, as soon as this new information came to light, did take decisive action very swiftly, which is different from the party opposite when they were in government, when they had serious misgivings? It was actually the independent ethics advisor that ended up resigning.
Well, I do agree with my honourable friend that this is decisive action. The Prime Minister has acted in light of that additional information, the Foreign Secretary has acted, and Lord Mandelson has been withdrawn as Ambassador to Washington.
Stephen Flynn.
I'm sure the Minister's delighted that he's not had to shred his own reputation like his ministerial and cabinet colleagues have had to do on the broadcast rounds over the course of recent days, including, of course, this morning trying to defend Lord Mandelson and the lack of judgment shown by the Prime Minister. I don't know what it is about the decades of scandals and being best friends with a notorious child trafficker and paedophile which should have got some alarm bells ringing in Number 10 before this decision was taken. But if I listened correctly, the Minister did not confirm to the Father of the House that all materials relevant to this would be published. Did the Prime Minister know about these emails prior to standing up in that dispatch box just yesterday to say he had confidence in Mr Mandelson? And does he retain the Labour whip in the House of Lords?
Well, Mr. Speaker, what I can commit to, and indeed other honourable members and right honourable members asking questions, is we will keep the House updated on these matters. That decisive decision has been made, and as I've been very, very clear, all candidates are subject to routine, extensive vetting and background checks as a matter of course. The Prime Minister, in light of the additional information, has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as Ambassador to Washington, and in particular that additional information, the emails show that the depth and the extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment. But where I do agree with him, of course, is on the appalling crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein, and that the thoughts of all of us are with his victims, as they are every day, Mr. Speaker.
Andrew Pett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I first associate the comments others made about the disgusting crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. Also, 24 years ago today, I was sat in the TUC Congress as a delegate when awareness of what happened on 9/11 had just come. So can I also put on record my tribute to the first responders and public service workers in New York who came to the aid of people, many of whom are still paying the price of that today. A lot has changed in politics since then. In those 24 years, one of the motivations that got me into public life was around accountability and the lack of accountability we saw from senior ministers when the party opposite were in government, and their failure to resign when scandals came up and the failure of front benchers to take action. So can I welcome the swift action this government has taken now new information has come to light? Can the Minister assure us that lessons will be learnt, and if these things arise again, this government will hold up the highest standards and take the action needed to protect public life?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I can absolutely assure him of that, and this is decisive action. And Mr. Speaker, you know, he references his time during the September 11th attacks, and I think we all remember where we were on that fateful day and that tragic day, and that's why we remember the victims, particularly today on that anniversary.
Sir Bernard Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I just point out that it was as plain as day after the exchanges between the Prime Minister and my right honourable friend, the Leader of the Opposition yesterday, that Lord Mandelson couldn't possibly carry on in his role. So why did the Prime Minister delay, or did he have to wait and be told what to do by Morgan McSweeney? And who is going to be the new ambassador, and how quickly is the new ambassador going to be appointed at this absolutely critical time when Russia is testing the very defences of NATO countries and we are showing such a weak response?
Well, Mr. Speaker, he will know, having, I'm sure, visited our embassy in Washington on many occasions, that we have an excellent, dedicated team there, including also, of course, in King Charles Street, in the Foreign Office here in London. And they're working on many, many aspects of that crucial security, defence and economic relationship. We are preparing for the state visit, and they're working diligently in that regard, and I commend them for that work. But he asked about new information, and I've been very, very clear, Mr. Speaker, in light of the additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson. The Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador, and I've gone into the particular items, and of course, in light of that, and mindful of the victims of Epstein's crimes, he has been withdrawn as ambassador with immediate effect.
Whereas, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has acted swiftly and decisively. What a contrast with the party opposite. I note the Shadow Foreign Secretary is not in the House today. What happened when she broke the ministerial code? The Conservatives promoted her. Does the Minister agree with me that we will not take lectures on ethics from the party opposite?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've been very, very clear that the Prime Minister has acted decisively on this matter, and in light of that additional information, the Prime Minister asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw Lord Mandelson as ambassador to Washington. That is decisive action. That is responding to that information, and I've explained the reasons for it.
Can I just say to one member, when he's mentioning another, I presume he has contacted to let them know that he's going to mention them. Is that the case? I'm sorry, but please do not do that again. We're meant to be treating each other with respect, and what I would say is, please, and it's a message to all members, if you're going to mention somebody, give the courtesy of ensuring the member is aware. Richard Ford.
Mr. Speaker, on the Foreign Affairs Committee, we have seen the high calibre of career diplomats who usually take up the most senior ambassadorial appointments. So it's not obvious to me why the British ambassador to the United States was a former MP. In the emails that have leaked overnight, it seems like Lord Mandelson thinks that to govern is to schmooze. Lord Mandelson famously declared in an election victory speech that he was a fighter and not a quitter, yet Lord Mandelson urged the convicted paedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, that to fight for early release was the right thing, and Lord Mandelson did not do the decent thing and quit. Does the Minister regret the original appointment?
Well, Mr. Speaker, he asked about precedent. He will know, of course, there is precedent, but of course, he will also know we do have absolutely excellent ambassadors and high commissioners around the world, and he and I have met many of them directly together, representing this country and doing that absolutely diligently. I've been very clear, Mr. Speaker, in light of the additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson. The Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador, and in particular, Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information, and the emails show that the depth and extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment.
Sir Roger Gay.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister's a decent man, and the whole House knows that the business of the House was delayed while he had to hurriedly rewrite the speech that he was expected to make. But he's stretching the bounds of credibility too far. Yesterday, the Prime Minister told this House that he had full confidence in a man who befriended the most vilest of convicted paedophiles. He should not have been appointed in the first place. That was a gross error of judgment, and everybody in this House knows it, and the Prime Minister has to take responsibility. But now that he's gone, will there be a Cabinet Office inquiry into the manner in which Mandelson, while a government minister, was negotiating with the convicted paedophile?
Well, Mr. Speaker, you'll understand why from the dispatch box I'm not going to comment on his last remarks, but what I will say is that the Prime Minister has acted decisively in light of this new information, and he has taken that decision to ask the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador. And I would say, again, for the House's information, in particular, the suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. The emails show that the depth of the relationship and the extent of the relationship was materially different from that known at the time of his appointment. And I think, again, Mr. Speaker, in light of that and mindful of the victims of Epstein's crimes, he has been withdrawn as ambassador with immediate effect.
Dr. Caroline Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the idea that our country should be represented in America or on the world stage by somebody who is trying to get a paedophile out of prison early will fill us all completely with revulsion. But I wonder if the Minister could be clearer. He's used the terms the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw the ambassador. He said the PM made the decision, but he's also said in this speech that Mandelson resigned. So could he be clear in simple terms? Did he resign or was he sacked?
Yes, great question. Minister. Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I've been very, very clear. The Prime Minister asked him to ask the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador. That is the process. He is no longer in his position. But what I will agree with her is our absolute revulsion across this House at Jeffrey Epstein's crimes.
Rupert Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I concur with the comments about Charlie Kirk, which the Minister made at the beginning. It shows the dangers, I think, that anybody who's brave enough to put themselves up for public service and try and change the world for the better, they risk those. They face those risks. Can I ask the Minister to first of all give us a reassurance that we will have total transparency on the process that was followed in the ambassadorial appointment? Number one. Number two, can the Minister please explain to the House, assuming we get over that hurdle, why the appointment of a man who described President Trump as a danger to the world, who the Americans described as an absolute moron, who has close links with China, and who has a history of misfeasance in public office, why was he the right appointment to make to the relationship with the most important and powerful country in the world, and a relationship which is essential to this country?
Well, Mr. Speaker, if I refer firstly to his first comments, and he and I fundamentally disagree on many different issues, but we know that we conduct our robust debate in this House and in our media and in our political society, and we don't engage in any form of political violence. And what has happened in the United States over the last 24 hours is simply appalling. And again, our thoughts are with all of Charlie Kirk's family and friends. And as somebody who worked very closely with both our late colleagues Joe Cox and David Amos, I think it shocked me to the core. It shocked all of us to the core, and it can never be acceptable. He asked about the processes. I've been very clear, Mr. Speaker. All candidates for ambassador positions are subject to extensive vetting and background checks as a matter of course, and I'd refer him to that formal process outlined in the Diplomatic Service Code. But what I can assure him, Mr. Speaker, is that we will keep the House updated on these matters.
Gagan Mahendra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the whole House is welcoming of the withdrawal of Lord Mandelson as head of mission, can the Minister confirm whether Lord Mandelson is still being paid as a civil servant?
My understanding, Mr. Speaker, is that he's still an employee. Proper employment processes take place, but I will write to him and confirm an answer to that question. He's been asked to withdraw as ambassador, obviously in recent times. I will come back to him with a very detailed answer on that. I don't want in any way inadvertently, Mr. Speaker, to mislead the House on an important matter.
Tom Gold.
Mr. Speaker, it seems that there's a broad consensus from the whole House. This felt like it was a question of when, not if. So I would ask the Minister, during that extended vetting procedure, was there ever any interference or pressure from either Number 10 or the Prime Minister?
Mr. Speaker, he will know. I simply am not going to go into vetting procedures. They're conducted independently, and certainly he can look at the details of how vetting processes are undertaken in that Diplomatic Service Code, which outline the process.
Sir Gavin Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Diplomatic Service Code states that diplomats' behaviour, action or inaction must not significantly disrupt or damage the performance or reputation of a diplomatic service. It also states that diplomats must set out the facts and relevant issues truthfully and correct any errors as soon as possible. In light of this, did the Lord Mandelson set out how many payments he had received by the sanctioned Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, even to accounts in this country, Switzerland or other areas? And has there been a situation where there's been one set of rules for civil servants and another set of rules for friends of the Prime Minister and Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, Mr. Speaker, his question in essence to the right honourable gentleman gets to the essence of the decision that's been taken. In light of additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador to the United States. The emails show the depth and the extent of the relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment, and in particular, Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. He's well aware of the procedures, and of course he knows that I don't have the documents relating to the vetting process in front of me.
Jim Shannon.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. You've caught me unawares here. Can I, on behalf of my party, convey my support to the Honourable Lady for Washington on what's happened to her? I think it's very much in her thoughts, and was in her company yesterday. Also, on behalf of my party, can I also express deep sadness at the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a 31 Conservative influencer who engaged with young people across the United States of America. I know he's in heaven. Do pray for his wife and children. I think we should all do that. At times like this, it is essential that we have an ambassador in place to convey our sincere sympathy with our allies. The removal of Peter Mandelson is to be welcomed. He should never have been there in the first place, in my humble opinion. Does the Minister believe it is imperative we have an ambassador in place, and that ambassador must have adequate history and qualifications rather than the jobs for the boys mentality? And further, what changes will the Minister make in the appointment process to restore confidence in that very role? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is rightly known as one of the kindest and most generous members of this House, and again I thank him for his comments about our honourable friend and the attack that she's endured this morning. And again, I wholeheartedly agree with his comments in relation to Charlie Kirk. He can be assured that we are already conveying our condolences to the United States, and of course I expect to be with the United States Ambassador to London later on today, where I'll be able to do that in person. He will know from a practical point of view that of course there are many posts where we, for periods of time, have ambassadors or high commissioners vacant. We have excellent teams who do the job, and of course when ambassadors and high commissioners are travelling, there is a team in post able to represent this country and ensure our interests are maintained, and that is exactly what will happen in this case.
Dr. Luke.
Mr. Speaker, this is about the Prime Minister's judgment. By Mandelson's own admission, he said there's more very embarrassing information coming. So the Prime Minister could have come to the House yesterday and said, I will suspend pending further investigation. But he didn't. He backed him. So on the back of that, can the Prime Minister be 100% sure that in any trade deals or any negotiations that Mr. Mandelson has not been compromised by the information that has now come forward? And will he commit to investigate that?
Very good. Well, Mr. Speaker, again, I bring him back to the fundamental point here, which is in light of the additional information and emails written by Lord Mandelson, the Prime Minister asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the words the Minister said about 9/11 and the untimely and tragic death of Charlie Kirk? Yesterday it was reported that in 2008 Lord Mandelson emailed Epstein and said that the conviction that happened to him in the United States, I quote, could not happen in Britain, but also encouraged Epstein to go for early release. Mr. Speaker, the whole House can see that the Prime Minister has an issue when it comes to judgment and only acting when he's pushed by events in this House. But will there be an investigation into Lord Mandelson's meetings while he was ambassador to see if they bear any relation or any interference on his current business interests? Will this government remove the whip from him in the House of Lords, yes or no? And will Lord Mandelson be entitled to severance pay once this action and this sacking has happened?
Well, Mr. Speaker, on the question about the whip, as an FCDO employee, Lord Mandelson was on a leave of absence from the other place. So that's very clear. As I said, Mr. Speaker, the emails show that the depth and the extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment, and in particular his suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged as new information, and that is why the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador to Washington.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister had behind process yesterday. The Minister is doing the same today. Did the Prime Minister know about these messages before Prime Minister's questions yesterday?
Mr. Speaker, I'm of course updating the House in real time as to actions and decisions that have been taken. I've been very clear about the new information that has come to light and the decisive decision that the Prime Minister has taken as a result.
Final question, John.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister claims that additional new information has come to light, which has resulted in the Ambassador being sacked. But can the Minister confirm that this is the only new information and all the other information was in the Prime Minister's knowledge?
Mr. Speaker, I refer him to the comments I've already made.
Point of order, Neil O'Brien.
The Minister says that the only reason Peter Mandelson has had to resign is the additional information that he had campaigned for the early release of Epstein. They are not saying exactly what they did or did not know at the point of appointment. And the only way for this House to know exactly what the government knew is to publish the documents relating to his vetting. Now, if the government will not publish those documents, as the Minister says they will not, would it be possible for this House to obtain those documents using the humble address mechanism?
It's not a decision for me. What I would say is the Treasury bench has heard, and if the Minister wishes to respond, I'm more than happy. Not going to. I'm not going to continue the debate, but I'm going to take a point of order from Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On a point of order, I would just welcome clarity further to the point that was previously made. The Minister was asked on numerous occasions when the Prime Minister was made aware of the information which led, the additional email information which led to Mr Mandelson's sacking. He's not provided the House with that information. What avenues are available to us as members to find out when the Prime Minister knew about this additional information?
Look, the honourable member and the leader, I know very well he knows the mechanisms that he will start to use. What I would say is I don't think this is the end of it today. I think this will be returned at some point. In fairness to the Minister, he has said the House will be updated as and when they have the information. So the points have been taken. I expect the points to be answered sometime. But let's just... It's going to be a long weekend before we get to Monday. Let's leave it there. I don't want to continue the debate.
And it's in relation to this issue, but in terms of the House procedures. Can I ask you, Mr. Speaker, the information that I took from the Minister's answer was that Lord Mandelson had not given the full account of his actions in the past while going through vetting processes. Therefore, can I ask you, as a member of the House of Lords, what are the disciplinary mechanisms that can be taken by the procedures of the House of Lords to make him accountable for that action, if true?
Can I just say, I've enough with the House of Commons. The responsibility of the House of Lords is not for me, and we're certainly not going to take it. Right, let's leave it there. Come to the next urgent question, says Secretary of State Julia Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology if she will make a statement on the cancellation of life sciences investment.
Miss.
Mr. Speaker, can I firstly start by welcoming the Honourable Lady to her new role. I did want to do that yesterday, but questions ran ahead of us, so I'd have the opportunity to do that. I'm answering this question, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Secretary of State.